met a lot of people here from all over the world, which I think is amazing accomplishment you put up this conference. So thanks a lot. And also, of course, thank a lot to all the sponsors who made this possible. Yes, I'm really happy to be here. My name is Mats, as I said, and today I'm presenting Embed Canvas Apps and Outlook for custom experiences. And maybe a bit of background before we go into that to me, because we will see some code in this. And well, it's a low-code developer bootcamp. But I will show you how it's, in my opinion, still a low-code approach of embedding Canvas apps and Outlook and creating new ways of embedding and combining your apps. Okay, before we start, let's a few words about me. So I'm Mats. I'm the CTO and co-founder of our Dynamics branch in the K&K group. So I started in the ERP business, joined them like 3 years ago. I co-founded the first CRM business we were doing. Quickly then Power Platform came up. So I was doing a lot of Power Platform and started loving it a lot. Nowadays, I work as a solution architect and developer consultant. So yeah, I have my hands in everything and like to play around with a lot of stuff. Yeah, you can definitely, and I'm hoping actually to connect with you. You can reach me on Twitter. You can actually check out my blog where I also put on a lot of resources, what I'm showing today. And you can reach me on LinkedIn. Obviously, if you have questions, we will do a Q&A in the end. I will show some slides and I have a demo, and I think it should be like 45 minutes of content. And I would be really happy to engage with you afterward. So please give me feedback on what do you think it is? Kind of like, do you think this was useful, the presented content? Do you have questions about it? If you have really burning questions, just put them in the chat, and I think we will get to them later. Okay, so what are we going to do today? So first of all, I want to talk about why Outlook. A lot of times, a lot of pitches up with Power Platform are like, well, let's get away from mail. And now I'm talking about, well, let's integrate mail actually. So I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about kind of like the inspiration or how this concept came together. Then I want to show you, well, what is inside, what's already out of the box? What do you get by just using Dynamics? Because there are a lot of integrations out of the box. And if they are already fitting to the use case you have, don't reinvent the wheel. Use them, but don't build something custom if the standard is already enough for that. So it's important to know what the standard actually offers. After that, I will talk about Outlook custom add-ins. And Outlook custom add-ins is basically technology we are going to use to embed Canvas apps later on. So it's a good to have a bit of background, how they work, how you can use them. And then we will do a demo and I will show you how it's done. Okay, I think with that, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Yeah, as I said, why Outlook? Also, how came I across this topic? So basically for me, and I guess for a lot of you, this is when you talk about Power Platform. I think this is kind of one of the slides Microsoft is showing a lot. I use them a lot in my presentations. And you see, like there is this huge platform we have. A lot of stuff is in there. But as you see here, we don't really have any, Outlook is not showing here. Because obviously we say, well, the low-code platform, that's something modern. It's Power BI, it's Power Automate. Then again, if you ask users what they're using, kind of like the first thing in the morning, or where do they spend a lot of time, you will often hear the answer Outlook. Because mail is not that, it will probably never be that. And a lot of use cases, a lot of processes, a lot of users work a lot with Outlook. So let's try to see how can we fit Outlook in this whole picture here to integrate it even more smoothly. Okay, just a few numbers, but as I said before, I don't think this is surprising to anybody. Outlook is really strong. A lot of people check it first. I see here some numbers. And also one interesting thing I found was when you check out Power Automate, so one of the new kits, the cool kits on the block, and you check the templates, even Microsoft, or I think those are the most popular templates, a lot of them are actually involved with mail. So you can see, obviously there is a huge need for still using mail in business processes. And that's kind of like why we said, okay, well, let's look into how can we integrate that with Canvas apps. First of all, there is already a lot of connection out of the box. And as I said in my introduction, I'm a strong believer that if the standard is working for you, use that. You don't have to reinvent everything, especially coming from a low-code background. There is a lot of cool standard functionality. Please use that. And myself and my customers, we use it a lot because a lot of use cases actually work pretty well with this. So let's jump right into that. First, I mentioned that before, Power Automate. Power Automate, as soon as you want to do something automatic, don't do it manually. Use Power Automate. Power Automate is so powerful. It's so flexible. You have a lot of triggers. You have a lot of events. So you can already with kind of like the out-of-box Power Platform templates, Power Automate templates, or custom build flows, you can have great digitalization of processes. You have a great automation story there. So if it's somewhat automatically, please first look in the Power Automate direction. You can build an app for that, but it's maybe even more smoothly if you just build Power Automate for that. Here's some examples. I was just checking out the templates on the Power Platform side. You see when a new mail arrives, I want to do something like converting it and store it in my Dataverse. Or and I think a very common thing to be built with Flow is the approval stuff. So when you have approvals, use Power Automate for that. They have great actions for that. One other thing, I don't know if people know that, it's the Microsoft Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. I put a GIF in here. You see it there on the right-hand side, basically. So what it does is that you have it in your Outlook client. You have this Dynamics 365 app for Outlook. And basically, it's a direct window or well, it's an interface, basically. It's an app for your Dataverse. For example, I think it was coming from Dynamics 365 for sales. But nowadays, it's also working without the first-party app. So you can use it with a simple Dataverse environment without any first-party licenses. You can install it there from the app source. It works with Dataverse, but only with Dataverse. But it's available for mails, for meetings. You can do contact syncs with that, and you can track mails to that. And I think a lot of people are using that. What some people don't know is that actually this is a fully functional model-driven app. That means you can customize it. So if you can, for example, just want to add a few fields on the contact shown there, you can do that during customization. It's also responsive, so you have it on your phone, you have it on your tablet, you have it on your screen, kind of like in a classic Outlook client, you have it in the browser. Do look into this if you're using Dataverse, and if you want to do something similar like mail tracking. This app, I think, offers a lot of opportunities for it. And actually, this was kind of like the starting point where I was thinking, well, how could we make this even more cool? Maybe not cooler, but more options. What do we want to do? And I thought like, well, this model-driven app is pretty standardized. I can customize it, but I can't do all the stuff I want to do. So I thought like, well, it would be really great if you just have a Canvas app in there, kind of like in the Outlook, you have the Canvas app, because in Canvas apps, and I think there was a lot of great sessions today about Canvas apps. They are really flexible. You can tailor the UI directly to the needs of your customer or for a specific use case. And then you have the Power Automate integration. So you can do a lot. And you have different data sources. So for example, if you don't want to track mails in Dataverse, but somewhere else, you could build a Canvas app connected with Power Automate or with the data connectors and store that data somewhere else. So you have a lot of more options with Canvas apps, but at this point, there's no native way to embedding this Canvas app. And this is where the Outlook add-ins come into place, because these custom Outlook add-ins, they offer us a way to embed Canvas apps in there. And to reiterate, in my opinion, the goal you should have in mind is kind of like to provide a really tailored UI, a tailored app for a specific process you want the user to solve. And usually that process starts in Outlook. It starts with a mail, or it is while writing a mail. You can, for example, kind of like I'm creating a mail for a business partner. I need some information. I could, for example, have a Power App to access that information. Okay, but let's first talk about the custom add-ins. How is it possible to embed a Canvas app? The Office add-ins, and Outlook is one of them, there's a new generation. Maybe as a background, I'm coming from the Power Platform side, not the Office development side. So I know if the Office developer here, so this is kind of like really just a high level. And this is what I read or got from the docs when I was starting to look into this. So why would we use these Office add-in, the new generation? Well, they're cross-platform. So I don't have to care if it's on web, is it Windows, is it Mac, is it iPad. We have a centralized deployment distribution process. I don't have to install it on every computer for every user. And I could even put that to app source. So if I want to kind of like create a business or monetize it, I could use app source for that, or I could just use it for deployment. And it's built on standard web technology. So you don't have to learn funky stuff to do it, because in the end, it's basically HTML. There's a bit of XML and a bit of JavaScript in there. But also, I'm not an Office developer. I'm repeating this a lot because I want to highlight why I think it's still a low-code approach. I will show you later on how we do that in Visual Studio. But basically, we will just use a template and then do most of the work in Canvas apps. I will get to that. Okay, what different types of add-ins do we have? there are three main types. One of them is kind of like in the ribbon bar. So you have a button, for example, which triggers something. We have the one which was showing you, which is working like the Dynamics 365 app in the task pane on the right-hand side. And there's also a possibility to add the app within the context of the mail. Today, we're going to focus on the task pane. So the one on the right-hand side, which is similar to the one we know from the model development. Okay, so how does it work? And why do I keep reiterating that you don't have to learn JavaScript or HTML to be able to do this? So this is a picture, we'll see that later on. How could it look like? What do we have here on the right-hand side is we do have the task pane. So the green border, that's actually the Office add-in we're going to create. Within that Office add-in, I'm basically having only an iframe. So I just want to display an iframe. Why do I want to display an iframe? Because Canvas apps are fully embeddable using iframe. So basically what I want the Office add-in to do is just being, well, a canvas or a border for my Canvas app, because I just wanted to display an iframe. Within it, I will embed my Canvas app. And also I can use query parameters to also give properties and information to the Canvas app, because I don't want to have just a static Canvas app that might be nice looking, but probably not that useful. What I want to have is a Canvas app which exactly knows what email is it embedded on, who's the sender, what's the subject, and so on and so on. So this is the goal. We want to keep the Office add-in as simple as possible. And I will show you a way to use the Microsoft templates, and I will also provide a custom template for that, so that you don't have to develop any JavaScript or HTML, but can focus only on developing in the Canvas app. Okay, with that being done, quick, because I want to, if you want to, I can share the PowerPoint. So I just wanted to put in where can you find additional information to this. So you can find it in the Office add-in resources. Microsoft has great documentation there. Basically, that was how I got started with this topic. I got to the Outlook add-in documentation. I clicked on the link, build your first Outlook add-in. And basically, that's what we were going to do in the demo. And I think Microsoft is doing a great job for somebody like me, who is not a JavaScript developer, but a Power Platform developer, to show how you can start with this and get into the topic. Okay, what if you want to try this out? This was important to me to kind of also what am I using in the demo? So basically, I'm using a Microsoft 365 dev tenant. You can use your own tenant. I like to use the one Microsoft is providing with the developer program. It's free, and you have a full tenant to play around. You also have the Office licenses, all that stuff. And there's a link in that how you can set up such a tenant. And also, I will show the quick start with Visual Studio 2019. You can use more modern versions. And you have to install the Office and SharePoint development pack. That's kind of like a pack by Microsoft, which is providing a lot of templates. We found out that it's at the moment, this Office and SharePoint development pack, it's only provided for Windows. Even though Visual Studio is working on Mac, at the moment, the Office development packs are not available for Mac. But that might change. And also, there are different ways to create these Office add-in. You can find that in the documentation. Okay, but I think for now, we had 50 minutes of theory. I think everybody's eager to see the demo. Let's dive right into, let's build something, basically. Okay, and with that, I want to switch to Visual Studio. And what I want to do in Visual Studio is I'm going to create a new project now. And when you create a new project in Visual Studio, what Visual Studio is asking you if you want to use a template. Basically, those are template sites, applications, if you want to do C#, something else. If you have installed the Outlook development pack, and when we then search for Outlook, you'll see that there are some templates already for Outlook provided by Microsoft. And this is what the quick start guide of Microsoft basically gives you. I'm going to select the Outlook web add-in here, because that's setting up the Office add-in in a way that I can start using it, and then I can start customizing it. So let's select this one. And create it. So what will the template do in the backend? Basically, it will create a Visual Studio project for me. It will create a basic HTML structure. It will already create some JavaScript files for handling data, Office contacts. And it will also provide all the XML stuff I need to publish this Office add-in later on. the nice thing about using the Visual Studio way here, and I will show that to you, you can use Visual Studio to also deploy that on your local machine. So if I want to develop and test something, and even though this is a centralized deployment, I can, it's called offloading or side loading. I can upload my just developed Office add-in without deploying it to all of the people, just deploying it from my Office account. And then I can test it in a live environment, which I think is quite great. Okay, here we are. So it created my Power Apps Dev Bootcamp project for me. What is in here is one manifest data file, Power Apps Dev Bootcamp manifest. The manifest, that's basically kind of like describing what your app is doing. So this is not any functions in here, but it's just a description so that Office knows what your add-in is about. For example, you see there's a display name in here. I can change the display name, and there's some other stuff. For example, here you can control where is it shown, the add-in. For example, I want to have it on the item read, which means I want to have it shown on an opened mail. There's a lot of stuff, a lot more stuff in here. You see icons, for example, and all that stuff. But basically, it's working for now. And what do I mean with it's working for now? If you use that template and you click on Start, it will compile the Office add-in, and it will actually also deploy that add-in. So let's do that right now so that we can see what it looks like. I'm going to use this is my dev account. Since I'm already logged in before, it knows my password. Otherwise, it will ask you for the password for your Office 365 account. And now when I connect it to the tenant, what it will do, as I said before, we compile the Office add-in, it will upload the Office add-in, and I can start using that. And it will actually open my browser. Yes, it will open my browser. It will open Outlook. And remember, in the manifest file, it was that this add-in is shown on a mail, an opened mail. And in the web browser, it is under More Actions up here. And here we see we have the Power Apps Dev Bootcamp. So that's the Office add-in I just created. If I click on that, I see some, well, not that beautiful, but well, actually we created our first Office add-in. So not that complicated using the template. I can also go in there and make changes really quickly. So if I go back here, I stop the debugging, which also is stopping the deployment. And for example, let's change the name to Dev Bootcamp. I save the file and I just deploy it again. And this is, I think, the nice way because you can really quickly do something in your code and check out, is it working or not? And actually, see, now it's called Dev Bootcamp here. So we have it all in there. And just by doing the changes in Visual Studio and deploy it again, you can actually see the effects in your live environment. Okay, but as said, well, I'm not an HTML JavaScript developer, and well, somebody starting with the Power Platform might not be either. So that's where I would recommend that we try to do a little as needed in the Office add-in and as much as possible in the Canvas app in the Power Platform. So how are we going to do that? Well, there are two main files which are important for this Office add-in. The first one is the HTML file. HTML is basically describing what is the app looking like, what is my Office add-in looking like. And we see here I have some HTML, some integrated libraries, and then here I have a long body. And that was basically creating all that stuff we just saw in the demo. So as I said, I want to keep it as simple as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the whole body. If I would now start the Office add-in, I wouldn't see anything. It would just be a blank screen. But to avoid that, what I will put in a new body. And basically what I created here is it just created an iframe. So I just have an iframe in here, nothing more. Okay. So I have the iframe. And the next thing is I have to tell the add-in, well, which URL should be loaded in that iframe. And for that, there is a JavaScript file. It's the message read.javascript. And this again has also like a lot of template boilerplate code. And again, we can delete almost all of it. I will do that here. And I end up with the office.initialize function. The office.initialize function, that's basically the function being called by JavaScript as soon as your add-in is loaded. So if it's shown on the screen. And in here, again, I will delete everything there is. Remember, I want to keep it as simple as possible in this Office add-in. What I will put in it, though, is I will put in a jQuery command where I'm creating the canvas iframe. That's the ID of the iframe I created in the HTML. And I want to set the source attribute. The source attribute in iframe, that's the kind of like the URL which should be embedded in your iframe. And for Power Apps, how you embed in Power App is you have the apps.powerapp, and then what you need is the app ID. The app ID is controlling which Power App is shown there. I already put in a demo Canvas app just to show you what the effect is looking like. In the next step, we will create our own Canvas app and also link that to the context in here. For now, I have my app ID here. It will create the URL, and it will then change the iframe component I have in there to use that URL to display it. Okay, I saved the file, and I will start it again. Let's see what it's looking like. Go Outlook. And again, I'm opening my mail. Oh yeah, sometimes for whatever reason, it's not loading the add-ins. In that case, a quick reload usually helps. Yeah, here we go. Oh, and now you see, I'm not seeing the text I had before, but instead I'm seeing a Canvas app. And which Canvas app am I seeing? Let me switch to make.powerapps.com, where I created a solution where I already have a Canvas app in there. And if we check out the details for that Canvas app, that is the app ID I was using in my Visual Studio. So this is the app which was showing there. Okay, and basically, without one more thing we have to do later on is the context. But for now, this is all you have to do in your Visual Studio. So you see, it's not a lot of Office development, I would say. You have to customize the template a bit. But then, since we only want to have an iframe in there, we don't have to spend a lot of development time in there. Okay, what I want to do now with you is kind of like go through the next steps. So basically, we will create a new Canvas app from scratch. We will use that to embed here. And we will also use the mail context, like the sender email, the body, and so on. We will use that in our Canvas app. Okay, let's start with that. And let's create a new Canvas app here. I'm going to create a new Canvas app with the tablet form factor. I tend to use the tablet form factor because with that, I can control the size more easily than I can with the phone factor. So first of all, what you want to do when you create a new Canvas app you want to use in an Office add-in is you want to change the name. I think Dev Bootcamp was the one we settled on, not Bootcamp. So, and I want to change the size because obviously the tablet factor is not the one I can embed there. So what I found in documentation is that basically your add-in is kind of like fixed on a 300 pixel width. It might be possible to change that. I haven't figured out how yet. So I'm going to use the default 300 width. I'm going to apply this one. And there's also one setting I would recommend you to use is we have here under experimental features is one, it's called optimize embedding appearances. Kind of like if you set this one to on, it looks a bit smoother when you embed that, for example, in an iframe, which is exactly what we are doing. Okay, let's put something in here. Let's start with label. Put some color and emoji in there. Oh, maybe it's working. Change the size, folder. And basically this is well how you get, and you see I'm also not a canvas designer, so you can create obviously a lot better looking canvases app here. And with that, I just want to show you how it's looked like. So we're going to save the app. Going to save this as Dev Bootcamp. Okay, once that's done, remember what I need for my newly created Canvas app. I'm going to need the Canvas app ID. So I'm going to details, and I will copy the app ID here. And with that, I'm jumping back to my Visual Studio project. And I'm going to change the app ID here. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to start the mail, start the build process again. And without having changed a lot in the Office add-in, basically I'm just pointing it now to the new created Canvas app instead of the old one I was using. And in here, let's reload again. I have my Dev Bootcamp app. Oh, by the way, what you also see, you can also use multiple apps, multiple Canvas apps this way, because you can have, well, probably not unlimited, but you can have more than one Office add-in deployed at the same time. And you see, okay, I have my new Canvas app here. Okay, so I think there was also a question in the chat before. Can we actually use kind of like the context of the mail in the Canvas app? And yes, we can. That's basically what I want to show you in the next step. And that will be the last modification we are going to do in the Canvas app itself. What do we want to do? For example, I want to see what's the sender, the name. I want the name and the email address. And I will show you what else we can get from there. Okay, so for now, I'm going to close this one here and going back to my Visual Studio. And what we're going to add now is a bit of JavaScript code. I'm going to replace this one. Okay, and I will walk you through what this code is actually doing. So first of all, I'm defining a variable. I'm defining a variable item. And with that, I'm using office.context mailbox.item. And the nice thing Microsoft has provided here, I don't know if you can see the small print here, but basically if you go over there, the intelligence will show you this item here. That's actually the JavaScript library accessing the actual email, which is displayed at that moment. So you can use all the properties of that email by using this JavaScript variable. So what do I want to do basically? I want to create a parameter string. Because when I embed a Power App using an iframe, I can provide parameters to that Canvas app. And by doing so, I have to embed them in the URL as query parameters. What does it look like? It always starts with an ampersand. Then you have the name, for example, mail ID, and then equal, and I put in the item ID in there. And then I can just add to that. Again, ampersand form. So the parameter is called form equals the item.form.email address. And then I put next again, ampersand form name equals item form.display name, and so on and so on. So you can add a lot of, you can basically add all the properties you need in your Canvas app using this approach. What we also have to do then in our iframe, I just have to add the parameters I created. I have to add them at the end of the URL. So we created the URL before, and now I'm just saying plus the parameters, and parameters is the JavaScript variable I defined where I put in all these different parameters. Okay, let's see how it looks like. Basically, this is the way from JavaScript of providing these parameters to the Canvas app. I'm going to deploy this one now. Well, obviously, the expectation is not that the Canvas app is showing anything yet, because we haven't told the Canvas app to use any of these parameters. But what I want to show you is that that's basically the last changes we made in Visual Studio. From now on, we can do everything in our Canvas app. Again, let's check out quickly the app. But, well, as I said, we haven't changed anything. So for now, the app looks like as it was before. Let's switch back to the development side of the app, and let's actually start using these parameters. How you can use them is basically in Power Apps, there is a handy function. It's called param. I'll put it in here as a label, as a function for a label. It's param, and then you're just going to need the name of the parameter you want to show. And remember, the parameter, that's the one we had in the Visual Studio, where I said ampersand form equals the actual name of the user, the email address. So form is that. And let me copy this one. We also want to have the subject in here. For the subject, I'm just going to change the parameter to form to subject. And with that, all I need to do is I'm going to need to save my Canvas app, and I'm going to need to publish this Canvas app. And then I can go to Outlook and check it out. So I don't have to do any changes in Visual Studio with my Office add-in once I do change the Canvas app. And I think that's quite powerful, because once you set up your Office add-in, you don't need to touch it again. And you can actually reuse the same Office add-in by just changing the app ID with multiple Canvas apps. And that's what I said with, well, I don't think you need to be a good Office developer. I'm not, but I can just configure the template so that it's using, like I did before, like I was showing you. And with that, you don't need to do a lot of Visual Studio coding anymore. Okay, what we're going to do, I'm close this. I will just reload it. And when I open my app now, you see it has the parameters for my email. So I have my email address here, the mats.necker@outlook.com. I also have the subject in here. So you see, I didn't do any changes in Visual Studio to get the information in. I just, before that, told Visual Studio to embed the Canvas app using properties from the email. And then in Canvas, I started using those. So with that, I have, I have the mail context available in Canvas app. And which I think is pretty great, because now obviously we can do a lot more with that kind of stuff. For example, what we could do, orientating to what the Dynamics app is doing, I could use this information to create a new contact in the Dataverse, for example. I could also create a new contact in a SharePoint list, or I could send out a mail using that information. That's the flexibility you have in the Canvas app. So basically, from this point on, you're again in the Canvas app territory, and you don't, in the Canvas app, need to worry about, am I embedded in the Office add-in or not? You just need to know what mail properties are available to you. That's what you define in the Office add-in. But after that, you don't have to worry about the Office add-in anymore. Or maybe an Office developer and a Power App developer can get together and use basically this as a the touching point, where kind of like the Office developer is giving that to the Power App developer. Okay, let's, as I was telling you, let's do a quick, so I don't see those anymore. Let's give them a quick background. Maybe a bit more nice looking. I had the mail and the subject in there, the mail address. So now I also want to have the mail, the name of the one sending that. And for that, I created the parameter from name. If I put that one in, I would expect it to show me the name of the mail. Let's quickly do that. I just want to, basically what I want to show you is that you just, by saving and publishing, you directly see the changes in your Office add-in, which I think is pretty cool, because it saves you a lot of deployment time. Once you have it deployed once, you just have to reiterate again and can use it here. No idea why there's a plus at the moment. It's strange. Okay, but you see, I do these changes in the Canvas app, deploy it without deploying the Office add-in again, but just saving and publishing my Canvas app. You do see the changes here. And as I said, well, now we are in the Canvas app, and now we can do all the great stuff Canvas apps can do. For example, as I said before, I could do something like creating a contact in here. See, create a contact. And how do you want to do that? On the on select of that button. Let me copy paste it here. Oh yeah, because I want to interact with the Dataverse, I first have to add that table to my app, so that the Canvas app recognizes the contact table or the contact entity and can start using that. And yes, with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm using the patch function. The patch function is basically to update, to insert something in the Dataverse or in any data connection. The first parameter, you have to tell it which table do you want to use, which data connection basically, which is contacts in this case. The second one is which record do you want to update. since we're going to want to use create a new record, I'm using defaults for contacts, which will set up kind of like a default contact for me. And then the last parameter is, okay, which fields do you want to use? And a simple one, for example, I want to use mail address 1. That should be my the email, the sender email. And then I have first name, last name. And here I just used basically the split command to split my the text I got, because I got Mats Necker as a text as the sender name. I want to split that to Mats and Necker to add that. Okay. Let's again save this one and publish it. What I also have to do, because we want to check out, well, we want to check out, is it in the date, is it creating a contact or not? So let's quickly create a model-driven app just to check out if contacts got created or not. Demo bootcamp. So this is actually not something we have to do for the officer then. This is just for me now to check out if the contact actually got created or not. So I just want to have the contact table in here. Save and publish also this. Save, publish. Okay, let's open the model-driven app. But as I said, so this is only kind of like to check in the backend if our Canvas app, which we embedded in Outlook, is doing what it should be doing. And let's delete my demo contacts here. Okay, so you see at this point, I don't have any contact in here, but I created my Canvas app so that it should create a contact in there. Let's switch back to Outlook to test it out. Remember, I don't have to do anything in Visual Studio or redeploy the Office add-in. I basically just have to publish the Canvas app, which I did. And you see now I have my button here. And when I click on it, it was doing something. And let's check out in the back end. Oh yeah, it created a contact. And if we jump in here, we also see it put in the first name, the last name, and the email address as we told the app to do that. And I just want to use this as an example, because obviously Canvas app can do a lot more, but it's something where you can think about kind of like, okay, I want to use the data from the email and save it somewhere else. You can also make your Canvas app read data from somewhere else. So at the moment, it's just creating contacts and contacts. So if I click multiple times on this button here, what it will do in the back end, which I just closed. Wait, let me open it again. My Dev Bootcamp. So I clicked on the button multiple times and it created multiple contacts for me, which is not something I want to do, or which in this case I don't want to do. And usually you probably want to have the Canvas app interacting with data in some kind of way. So for this one, what I was thinking about, well, I want this button to only be active when there is not a contact with that email address already in my data source. If there is a contact with that email address, I don't want to offer the create contact button to the user. So for that, what I can use is the display mode of the button. At the moment, it's always edit, so it's always editable. Let me copy paste because I can't really type well when I'm speaking. So what I want to do here is I want to use the lookup. So I'm going to this function here. I'm going to use an if. If the first part I will get into it. Basically, what I want to do, if the contact with that email is already in the database, then I want to open it in a display mode view. If it's not in the database, I want to open it in display mode edit the button. And for that, I'm going to use the lookup functionality, which is basically getting up to one record from the data source. I'm going to do that on the contacts table. And I have one condition in there. The email from the contacts table should be the same as in the parameter form. And then I'm going to check, is that blank, the returning result? Because if it's blank, that means there's no contact with that email in my database. Okay, let's check out this result. So basically what I added to the Canvas app now is also possible to read data from a data source and use that data to change the UI I'm displaying to the user in Outlook. So in this case, it's really simple, but you can, of course, create like more diverse UIs based on if data is available or not. And remember, I don't have to do anything here, but reload the site once. When opening it, it says, okay, I have no idea why there's sometimes a plus in there, to be honest. Let's quickly try it again. Okay, there it is. So the button, as I would expect to, it's I can click on it because at this point, when I check in my model with map, I don't have any contact with that email in my database. So I'm going to create that contact. Let's check it out. Contact got created. And if I now reopen this app here, we see up here it's loading. But so sometimes, and might be nice, until now the demo was going well, but sometimes you see this is not what you expect to. So sometimes there's the case that you actually have an older cached version in here. So what you have to check out is what I tried, or what I kind of like do a lot when I have a problem like that. So I'm going to republish my Canvas app just to make sure that the Canvas app is on the correct published version. So let's publish this one again. And actually, sometimes my impression is that Outlook still has like a cached version of that. It shouldn't do that usually, but sometimes there's a case. So the first step, you can obviously just open Outlook again, like in a new tab, or do that again to remove that cache. Let's see. Open it again. Okay, it's, oh, yes, you see. I know what the problem was. You see, I can't click on the button anymore, but it's still looking like it's enabled. And actually, that's an error I made in my Canvas app, because I put in here, I want to have the display mode as view, which, to be honest, it's not really distinctive from the display mode edit. What I can put in is display mode disabled. Display mode disabled will actually display it as a gray button instead of a blue button. So you see, that's the third error. It can be standing in front of the screen and just not adding to the Canvas app in the correct way, which was the case here. Let's check it out. You see, so I blamed cache for no reason. It was actually my mistake. But now you see it is checking the database. It's seeing, okay, there is already a contact with that email. So I'm not offering the opportunity to create that account or that contact again. Okay, looking at the time. So what else can you do, or what do I think you can do? Well, as I said before, now you're in the Canvas app. What you could do is you could start integrating with Power Automate. So you can put in here a button, for example, and then use Power Automate. So you can use Power Automate now to trigger a lot of more stuff and use the information you have in the parameters. You can use that with Power Automate. One other thing we did, which I think is also quite nice under here, you can embed in Canvas apps. You can embed, if we go to charts, I can embed Power BI in here. So for one customer, we actually built a Canvas app where we used the mail to filter a Power BI report to kind of like display the Power BI data for that contact which is sending me the email. So I can use Canvas app to even embed with more technology or different ways of displaying data. But this is just kind of like to give you some ideas. Basically, what I would love to do now is to go to Q&A, because we don't have that much time left. Please ask me a lot of questions. Please give me some feedback. Do you think this is something where I could say, well, actually, kind of like using Canvas apps on Outlook, that's kind of like bringing up ideas for me, or oh, I could use that for this or that. I and my team, we just recently started playing around with how this works and what we can do. But I think because Canvas apps are that flexible in the way of how you build your UI here, and flexible of what data sources you can connect to, what different other like Power BI or Power Automate you can use in there, you have a ton of opportunity. And you have that ton of opportunity directly embedded in Outlook, where still a lot of your users are working and where a lot of processes start. So I think that gives you a huge tool set you can use to well, help with these processes and get your user some awesome tools and awesome experiences working with this Power Platform connected to Outlook. Okay, with that, I would like to say thanks for listening, and let's go to the Q&A. I think I have a slide for that. Yes, Q&A. As Ross said, it's almost 6 o'clock in Germany, so after this, I am allowed to drink a beer. But yeah, let's check out the questions. I will probably just scroll up. Sorry for that. I don't know where it started. Okay, there's one question. Can we pass data from Canvas to Outlook? Well, with the approach I was showing with the iframe, you can't directly. If you're going into more of the Office add-in development, you can actually interact with that. With the iframe, that's not possible because the iframe doesn't know where it's embedded, so you can't send data back. What you can do, though, is use Power Automate. And when you use Power Automate with the Outlook connector, you can, for example, archive emails or do stuff with that email and so on. So that's more of an indirect way. But kind of like with this iframe approach, you don't have a direct feedback from Canvas app to Outlook. Okay, somebody called it very useful. I like that a lot. Can you display the app in the display areas that allows to a full tablet line layout in the screens? Okay, I think that question is about where can I display the add-in in Outlook? And actually, yes, you can display it in other areas as well. Let me quickly jump back. So this was I was showing you was a task pane. So this one here on the right-hand side. You have different other ways how you can create an Outlook in. For example, it might be here in Outlook with these dialog content in them. That's more embedded kind of like directly inside your email. With that add-in type, though, you have to do a bit more of development in the Office add-in itself. But there are other ways to display it. Also, maybe a nice way to think about this. I was showing about Outlook. The same thing works for PowerPoint or Word, for example, as well, or Excel. So basically, you can create the same type of add-in in Excel or Word, for example. So maybe that's something which also gives you some kind of idea. Oh, I see. Oh, somebody already posted my GitHub. That's something I wanted to do at the end, but thanks, Dave, for that. Where I have basically the template I was showing you, the Visual Studio template, like the stripped down version. I've uploaded it there so that you don't have to do all the steps again. Yes, the troubleshooting, it always helps when the demo is not going that smoothly. I can tell because obviously now when I show this, it's in a flow. But obviously when you first start this, there will be some roadblocks and you will get into that. So I think it's always useful to know, well, what do I do? And maybe just as a kind of like last resort tip, because I managed at some point that the Office add-in wasn't doing anything at all anymore. So with that, stop the deployment from Visual Studio and basically just deploy it again. So this is also kind of like one of the final troubleshooting steps you can take there. Oh, yes, there was some questions about how to deploy the app. So there are multiple ways how you can deploy these Office add-ins. One is basically that an admin or you upload this as a package to your Office tenant. And then in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, you can push add-ins, your custom one, but also you can also control like third-party add-ins. And you can push that from a centralized location to everybody else in your tenant or only to a subset, like a group of people. That's one way you can do it, kind of like manually uploading your created Office add-in, and then an Office admin has to push that out. I think it has to be an Exchange or Outlook admin. Another way is the app source. So you can publish the package, the created add-in, to the app source where a user can basically pull it and kind of like install it for himself. I think those are the two main ways. But with these modern Office add-ins, you have a lot of, I think, control over and, well, an easy way of deploying those add-ins. There was also, one question about sharing the Canvas app to every user in the organization. I think that was already handled. Have you figured a way to force open the add-in without the users have to click the more action for the email? No, I have not. In the browser, that's kind of like the way it is. Then again, let me rephrase that. So what I think you're asking is there kind of like a more direct way than click on more actions and then click on the add-in? I don't think there is in the web application. And basically, if you do it on the phone, it also looks a bit different. If in the desktop client, for example, when you open the mail in a normal sized screen, you actually have the button right on top and you don't have to click on dots first. But that's something which you can't have a lot of control over. That's something Outlook is figuring out depending on the screen size, the resolution, and what kind of device are you using there. Okay, let me slip back. Gotta be honest. Let's check whether. Oh yeah, will this work for Outlook Desktop as well? Yes, it will. That's the awesome thing about these new Office add-in. It works for basically every kind of device that Outlook is running on. So I'm using that on my phone, on my iPhone. I know it works on an Android phone. You can use it on your desktop app, and you can use it in browser. And then again, also on a lot of different screen sizes. Can we access appointment and attachments the same way as email contacts? Yes, you can. For example, with attachments in this JavaScript, let's quickly jump back here. Here, this mailbox.item, basically that has a lot of, if I go in here, item, you see I have a lot of properties like attachments. I can also select the categories. I can see who was BCC or his CC and all that stuff. If you want to see more details, what you can do is check out the documentation Microsoft has created. So they have a nice documentation displaying or highlighting what is available actually using this JavaScript library we are using here. What other use cases in Outlook do you visualize for this toolset? Yeah, as I said, I can think of a few. Like at the moment, I'm playing around with embedding Power BI in Canvas app. So kind of like to have Power BI directly embedded and kind of like have that filtered. I can also, like a really simple app I actually want to deploy for our team ourselves. It's kind of like, I called it like, I got it. Because often there's an email coming to a group of 5 people. And when I read the email, I'm not sure if somebody else is already working on this or not. So imagine you have a small Canvas app. I can quickly check, has somebody else flagged this mail as, well, this is my responsibility, I will work on that. Or I can say, well, this was going to my whole team, but I will mark the email as I will work on that. So I don't have to send an email to everybody else, to all the other recipients, telling them, well, I got this, I will work on that. Instead, I will just use the Canvas app and mark the email as, well, Mats is going to handle this. And if somebody else is asking him the same question, kind of like, well, this email was to my whole team, am I responsible? He opens the Canvas app and the Canvas app can, well, no, actually, Mats has already flagged this email as he will work on that. And but those are just 2 examples. And I think there are a lot more out there. And I would love to hear also from you what ideas you get. I think there's a lot of stuff you can do with that. Okay. Yes, a great question was about the authentication. How does the authentication work? Because you see, in my demo, there was no authentication screen popping up. I would recommend that you deploy the Office add-in and the Canvas app in the same tenant, because if you do that, the user is basically, well, it's like a single sign-on, because I'm signed in my Outlook here, and I'm using the same login to access my Canvas app, so I don't have to redo the login here. So basically, that's handled by the browser, because I'm already logged in with my Office 365 account here in Outlook. The same login will work with the bootcamp. Oh yeah, and since I was talking about troubleshooting a lot, this is the error you get when you stop deploying in Visual Studio. Then it will look like this. So if I would start, or if I would deploy again with Visual Studio, I would get rid of this error here. Okay, there was also some question about the source code. And yeah, so that's something I wanted to leave you with, because I was talking about my blog, so some selfless shame promotion here, but I have put in all the instructions and the template I was using here in a few posts. So if you want to check it out, you can definitely check it out here. And the GitHub, I already had it here, but somebody else posted it, Dave. I'll just do it again. You can also check out this GitHub, because in this GitHub, basically, that's the Visual Studio template cleaned up without all the stuff you don't need at this point, basically. So yeah, please check that out. Also, if you have questions regarding this, or for example, I was doing the session before and somebody told me, well, actually with a Mac, it's not working much, as you said. Please give that feedback because, well, I also am new to this topic and I think there's a lot of potential. And I would like to learn more about it. Also, what are your experiences, kind of like what is working, what's not working. So definitely connect with me on Twitter, connect with me using the blog or connect with on GitHub. And yeah, let's get together and kind of like talk about what can we do with this. Okay, let's see. There was one more. Oh yeah, you had me at emoji. Yes, do check out my blog. I have some stuff about emojis there. One question about if you have different versions of the app, dev, QA, prod, does the embedding work with multiple environments? Yes, it does. Basically, because the Office admin, it doesn't care where the Canvas app, in which environment the Canvas app is hosted. So you could, for example, have one Office admin kind of like connected to the prod Canvas app and another one connected to a different Canvas app, which is then the dev or user acceptance, which I think makes also in testing quite nice because basically we don't do a lot of logic in the Office admin. So if you want to deploy a new version, just make a copy of the add-in, call it like version next, and deploy that to your test users. And then they can use that one next to the one which is at the moment connected to prod. Yeah, great question, Kola. Okay, I don't see any more questions. Again, if you have think about anything else, please get in contact. I can put in my Twitter handle here. And connect to me on Twitter or all the other channels. And yes, thanks a lot for listening. I'm actually really amazed how many people were showing up here on a Saturday. So thanks a lot to that. And I hope this was insightful. You got some ideas from that. And yeah, I would definitely love to see if you build something with that. Please give me any kind of feedback. I would love to see what you're doing with this. Yes, and then I don't want to overuse my time because there are awesome sessions coming up next. I hope you stay on for those. And yeah, talk to you soon and have a great day.
Thank you, Matt. So that scenario in particular is going to be very, very good for user adoption, right, Matt? And,
I think so.
Yeah, and also it overcomes one of the licensing implications of Dynamics, which I know you didn't mention explicitly, but as we know, there is native integration for Power Apps through Outlook. That's part of the Dynamics license, which we all know is about 10 times more than a Power Apps license. Yeah. So this is the alternative way which doesn't incur any costs, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic, Matt. It was a great pleasure to host you today. Thank you so much. So, Matt, did you share you've shared your contact details, your Twitter. Feel free to share your blog and anything else in the chat as well so people can stay connected with you with all the wonderful work you're doing.
Awesome.
Thank you, Matt.